when I cut open that box and I saw hundreds of containers. Something inside of me felt broken inside, and that I'd never be the same. And when I opened the large container and I saw Christopher X, I thought I was going to die. I didn't know how I could go forward. But as Mother Teresa said, that when you love until it hurts, there can be no more hurt, but only more love. And that is how we can bring ultimately justice to these children and all children murdered by abortion, is that we love 10 times more than their hatred. We love passionately and vulnerably. I came into this movement an atheist, and it was a philosophical question for me. Who deserves the right to live? But it's not a philosophical question for me anymore. It's very real. I have literally held these victims. I have looked into their faces. I have seen their stolen futures. And I know who their killer is. And he's still killing every single week here in Washington, D.C. And there are killers like him all over the world. That crushing feeling we had when we saw those babies, it changed our lives, but you just can't ever get rid of the feeling of knowing how many more died that were never loved, that will never be known. We can't even fathom the number of victims.
Before we opened that, I took a picture of a foot in the bucket. And it's a very telling picture, it's a powerful picture. But it was just represented what was to come. And then Lauren pulled out Christopher X and held him in her hands. And at that moment, it was a very morbid moment. It was very grotesque. But I felt like God was telling me, this is a celebration. These children have been found and now are being heard. Their story is being told all over the world. Otherwise, they would have been in the trash. And so I want to thank, again, the POW team for allowing me to document this and be a part of this horrible story, but very victorious story for these kids that now have a voice.
Harriet, they pulled her legs out of her mom's vagina, and then they stabbed the back of her head, sucked out her brain. Angel was dismembered. Holly was dismembered. Christopher, we can't even find any wounds on him. He was probably born alive and left to die. And Phoenix was in his amniotic sac. It wasn't even pierced. He probably drowned in his own fluids. That's evil. You don't do that to babies. And I mean babies, I don't mean fetuses, even if they were still in the womb. Even if it's a technical term, I mean infants, I mean people. Harriet was a person. Angel was a person. Holly was a person. Phoenix was a person. And Christopher X was a person. And I encourage you to please call them people.
I've heard people say that we should not have named these babies Teresa and Lauren. Why, I'm so honored to know women as strong as you, that they should not have named these babies, that they should not have humanized them. But today I say to you, if we do not, who will? If we do not hold these babies as our own in our hearts, if we do not cherish them, if we do not go to the politicians to demand an autopsy, to demand a funeral, to demand justice for these human beings, who will? These have to be our children. We cannot leave them alone and broken in dumpsters. We cannot leave them to be incinerated. These have to be our children. These have to be our babies. Because only in holding them to us and cherishing them as our own will we be able to win this fight, to overcome the politicians and the people who have locked them up in a closet.
My name's Melanie Salazar. I'm an organizer with POW. And when I saw the pictures of these babies, about a year ago, my life changed. And I had been in the pro-life movement and I had been fighting for the babies, but I don't think it really clicked to me that abortion is murder until I saw these children. And I want to say that I'm sorry to the babies, and to all babies. I'm sorry I didn't do more, but I'm going to do more because I saw your faces. And I will not stop fighting for you babies. Abortion is murder, and I will act like it.
And yet I stand here because she chose life. There is no reason, there is no justification, there is no way that you can justify the murder of any child, let alone these children. These 5 who were so close to exiting the protective home of their mother's womb and into this world, and were instead murdered. Murdered by a person that, though we pray for him, must truly have darkness in their heart to be able to justify this, to justify making a living doing this. The circumstances of one's conception do not determine their worth as a human being.
After what happened to them, after seeing the lifeless bodies of these babies, then every single one of us can do it. We can put our bodies in between these victims and their killers. I just want people to see the reality of this, because so often when we protest, it's anger, it's rage, and that is justified, but what they must also see is our sadness. They must also see that we don't do what we do for the cameras, we don't do what we do for Instagram followers, or for people to recognize us on the street. We do what we do because this is a genocide. We do everything we have to do to raise awareness for these victims. It is their right to be seen. It is their right to give their visual testimony when they cannot give one verbally. And it is their right to be rescued.
This is something that I wrote exactly a year ago. I wrote a letter to Christopher as a way of grieving, and I'm going to try to read it to you today. Dear Christopher X, I don't know how to express my grief that your little life was taken so quickly and so brutally. I think about you every single day, and I'm so sorry, sweet baby boy. Did you know that you had dark hair? Did you know that you had a little button nose? You had little fingers and little toes, and the sweetest face that deserved to be kissed with love. You did not deserve this, Christopher. I'm desperate for you to know that. A piece of my heart will always be broken for you.
Hi everybody, my name is Connie, and I came all the way from Ohio because I care about these precious children. And I want to honor them with my traditions. So I will be singing Swing Low Sweet Chariot, and then I will do a prayer for my tribe. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forward to carry